do this. So fuck yes, welcome to After the Hype. I'm your host, always Brian Dressel. With me as always, Jonathan Hardesty and Emily Blake.
Yo.
I just totally steamrolled over John this week.
Thanks.
It's because I'm more exciting.
You are.
I was gone for 2 episodes.
You were. Special guest this week. We have sitting in friends of Sam. She recommended that we bring these 2 people on. So if they're terrible, make sure you message Sam. Totally joking. We have Kyle and Makaela. I already forgot the last names again, even though I've asked 3 times this morning, and I'm the worst. We have Kyle
Anderson
and Makaela Newsome.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Anderson Newsome. As soon as I got the first one, I knew I could get the other one.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us this
thank
week
you for having us.
to talk about a movie that maybe half of you liked.
We'll talk about it.
Maybe. Before we get too far into anything, though, I think we should do a Where Have You Been Doing? I can go first. I have been playing... let's see. Which game do I want to talk about? I'll go with Tetris Effect. I've been playing Tetris Effect. I never thought I'd ever spend $40 on a Tetris game in my 30s. I thought I got that out of my system when I was a child with my Game Boy. But I can honestly say this is the definitive version of Tetris. And if you've ever even thought you might want to buy another version of Tetris, this is the one. Especially if you have PSVR. If you don't have a PlayStation VR, it still works. It's still great. It's still awesome. But with virtual reality, it is the best experience of Tetris ever. And I'll explain it as quickly as I can so we don't waste too much time on it. But basically, they integrate emotion and music into Tetris in a way that I didn't think physically possible. So every time you move a brick, it's percussion or it's strings or it's something. And you wouldn't think that with your phonetic moving that it would actually line up with music, but it does. And I don't know how they did it, but it's fucking incredible. Like, it is so unbelievably good. And then when you have the sensory deprivation of VR and headphones and you just have everything swirling around you while you're playing Tetris, it is one of the coolest experiences I've ever had with my PlayStation. I cannot recommend the game highly enough. Totally worth the $40. And if you ever get it on, I'm sure there'll be Christmas deals where it'll be like 20 because people just want to get it out there more. Buy it. Buy it as soon as you can. VR, no VR, whatever. It's awesome. John, what about you?
So I finished Persona 5 just the night before recording this. Wow, what a fun game. I found a favorite.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe that that it could, live amongst games like, Mass Effect and other ones that are just up there. And it's like it's really well done.
What was your final playtime?
109 hours, I think.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Games are not short.
No, it takes a lot of your time, and especially since a lot of that time was being in high school, being average at exams, and like trying to date my teacher. Which all the while fighting shadow demon monsters in people's minds to steal their hearts to turn them good and reform society.
Did you ever come across the giant dick monster?
Yes,
Yeah.
the dick in the incisor wheelchair thing with his like little mini dick partners.
Yeah, it's a hell of a game.
It is a hell of a game and very anime in the best possible ways.
Yeah, where you have a cat crushing on a girl.
Yeah.
What? Lady on. Shut up.
Yeah, it's really fun, and I'm a fan of JRPGs in general, but this just is such a neat way to look at it, and especially after coming off of the real big disappointment of Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, trying to play them the other way around doesn't work.
No, like where Final Fantasy 15 was trying to reinvent what they were doing, and this just felt like it did that to JRPGs in general, and made it look easy.
Yeah, it was kind of like Final Fantasy was trying to reinvent the wheel, and Persona's like, no, the wheel works fine.
The wheel
you just
works
have to
fine.
do it right.
Yeah, and they did it right.
Yeah.
And just it was so cool and really fun.
Emily, what about you?
I had jury duty this week for 2 days. So
Do you recommend people try jury duty?
I mean, it was interesting. There were interesting people.
At least you had that.
I got a cold because there were 53 other people in that room, and one of them probably didn't cover their mouth when they coughed. A lot of old men in there. Anyway, yeah. So because that's not what I'm recommending. I'm not talking about jury duty. But anyway, I was reading the whole time I was in the jury room, which is interesting because we were forced to turn off our devices, and I was the only one, 45 or 54 people, and I was the only one who brought an actual physical book. So it was pretty exciting for me. Everyone else was really bored.
Did they tell you beforehand that you're not going to be able to use
when
it?
you're in the courtroom, you have to turn them off. But they not in the jury room. But like when you're in the courtroom, sometimes they leave you alone to go sidebar, but you're not allowed to talk because the court reporter has to hear what they're saying. So like you have to stare into space and be alone with your thoughts. And I was like, haha, I brought a book.
That's a horrifying prospect. I can't alone with my thoughts. My thoughts are mean at me.
Yeah.
So the book.
Remember that embarrassing thing you did 10 years ago? Isn't it
Now
horrible?
you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Relive it.
In detail, vivid.
Now, the book is called Heroine Complex by Sarah Kuhn or Kuhn. I'm not sure how you say her last name. Kuhn. It's really, really good, and I'm quite enjoying it. I'm almost done because thanks, jury duty. What was fun was there's like no sex scenes at all until I got to jury duty, and I cracked the book, and the first scene I read was this really steamy, hot sex scene, and I was like, oh my god, this is the wrong place. You know,
Isn't it weird to read that sort of stuff when you're around
yeah,
people? You're like,
right.
oh, it's like
They're going to know what I'm reading.
they're somehow going to see the words and be like,
Yeah.
they're reading a porno scene.
So it's about it's a world where it's San Francisco, and there are superheroes, and but the main story is about the superhero's personal assistant. And she's kind of always lived in the shadow of the hero, and then we come to find out she actually has powers of her own, but she's sort of suppressed them because she doesn't want them, and she doesn't want to be the center of attention. And so it's about, I love stories about people living up to their potential, and that's what this is very much. Someone who's never thought she was worth all that, you know, discovering her own potential, and it's really, really enjoyable book. Reads really quickly.
Cool. Kyle, what about you?
So I've been reading One Piece all year. I don't know if you guys are familiar with One Piece.
I'm not.
It's like
I've heard of it.
Yeah, well, you got the Uchiha symbol.
Oh yeah, Naruto.
yeah. So, it's very much in that same
Yeah.
realm. There was
All the Shonen Jump stuff.
yeah, exactly. There's like a ninja versus pirates thing going on.
Yep.
We have here represented the ninjas. I'm pointing to John
Yeah.
right now.
Which one was better? Which one won that culture
the-
war 10 years ago?
I never knew what the logo on John's hoodie was, and I've seen that hoodie for like
Yeah,
7
he
years.
wears
Everyone
a
has
lot.
confused it for Pepsi. And I'm like, all right,
I
cool.
thought it was a Pokemon.
That's what I thought too. I thought it was like a shitty
It does-
Pokemon
it does
logo.
look like
Well, it's
that.
generational, so it's like, okay, you're over a certain age, you think it's Pepsi.
So I'm reading like the pirate Shonen Jump manga, and it's called One Piece. It's all about following your dreams. It's about
Yep.
this guy who he's actually like a 17-year-old kid, and he decides he's going to be the king of all pirates, and he goes on this massive journey. When I say I've been reading it all year, I think they're on chapter 926.
Yeah, those things go for...
Lord.
I'm on chapter 757 right now.
I was afraid you'd say 7.
That is so weird
I'm
that
a
you mentioned
slow reader.
that is so weird that you mentioned that, because there was kind of a bit of snobbishness on my end from the Naruto. It's like, oh, it's ninjas. They're so different. And like, he's a kid, a little kid who wants to become the king of ninjas. So like, they're the same thing. I
It's
think.
the same thing. It's the basic. They're basically the same concepts.
Yep.
But one of them is pirates and the other one is ninjas. And I've been really enjoying One Piece. It's like there's some really deep stories in there. Like there's some deep concepts.
Good luck convincing anyone else though about that. Like,
I know.
Where do you find it?
I just read it online. You can
It's
go,
online?
You can go to the library and just order them if you want.
Yeah.
they're pretty readily available.
Okay.
I think it's the best selling of all time right now from Shonen Jump. It's outsold Dragon Ball at this point.
Wow.
Oh,
So
shit.
it's pretty big.
It's
Yeah.
pretty
It's
big.
really big.
No one reads it in America, from what I understand. But
Well, I'm proving that
everywhere
norm.
everywhere else they're reading it. So I've been into that, and I'm still almost 200 chapters behind. So
It's daunting.
Speed up, man.
Someone's gonna spoil it for me. Know what happens next? But it's been good.
Makaela, what about you?
Okay, so I'm fun employed right now, so I have a lot of time. And I have been binge listening to murder mystery podcasts. So the one that's my favorite, Sam hates with a passion. It's called My Favorite Murder. So it's like, I don't even have to plug this because it's a really big podcast and I'm just late to the game per usual. Because one of my friends were like, how do you not listen to this? So now I have listened to literally like 6 hours a day of murder mysteries.
Wow.
Nice.
So I can now just bring up murder in just the randomest conversation. I'll be like, you guys heard of the Lululemon killer? You guys heard of this killer? Like, it's amazing.
Do you feel like you're learning how to be a detective?
I feel like
Or a murderer.
I feel like I'm prepared, which is why the ballpoint hammer will come into the conversation
Okay.
later.
Do you think you'll ever become the king of detectives?
Yes, I will. Well, or like the queen of murder mysteries. You
you
know, like we just
The new
I can
Murder, She Wrote.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what I could be. I can sit around and talk about Ted Bundy all day and Ed Coon, and it'll be a great time.
And you'll catch all of those. Like you'll be able to do it because you can
start
think like
doing
the
it.
murderers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just feel so much more prepared now. I'm like, okay, well, this is how they murdered the last girl. They're not going to get me, bitch. Like,
Yeah.
I get in my car, I lock the doors real fast. I'm ready.
That's fantastic.
Nice.
I think we should get started on today's movie.
Oh boy.
I'm so excited to talk about today's movie. Today's movie is You Were Never Really Here. It is directed by Lynne Ramsey, who, if you know, you will definitely have an opinion one way or the other on. And I think that's what this episode will be. It's Lynne Ramsey, from what I've known of her from her first movie, Ratcatcher, is very divisive. I don't know a lot of people are like, yeah, that was fine. Most people are, that sucked or that was awesome. And I think this movie around the table will be pretty much the same. And we'll see if we can swing anybody over to one side or the other.
Not gonna happen.
We'll see. I might be. You might be able to convince me it was horrible.
Oh, that might happen.
It might.
There's no way you're gonna convince me this was a good movie.
John has an argument that he's already told me that was pretty excellent. But we'll get to there, and we'll get to it. But first, before we do any of that, we have to do a breakdown, where Makaela is going to tell us everything that happens in You Were Never Really Here in a grand total of 30 seconds. Makaela, do you think you'll be able to do this?
I do. I believe in myself.
Okay.
Because there's no plot.
There's
a plot.
So much
There's
plot.
a plot.
There's like no plot.
You were just coming out of the gate swinging. And I have to disagree with you. There's definitely a plot.
Oh, we're gonna get into it.
Definitely a plot. You might not like the plot, but there is a plot. But first, you ready to go?
I'm ready.
You ready to go?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. You Were Never Really Here in 30 seconds. Here we go, 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 go.
Okay, so we open up. There's a guy. He's in a man bun. It's very hipstery, but he's doing it. So we find out he's an assassin. You don't really know. Is he an assassin? Is he a killer? You find out he's actually like this guy who rescues kidnapped people, but he likes to murder in the process. He's still a great son, really nice to his mom, clearly had some childhood abuse. He has a weird thing where he likes to inhale in plastic bags. Pretty sure he's trying to kill himself, but that's beside the point. So he finally shows up to his new jobs. Also, he likes to eat jelly beans. I will bring jelly beans and murder back to
And you're out of time.
Damn it.
There's a lot of detail.
It's really tough to say there's a plot when you don't even get to the beginning of the plot. You're just ruining my argument from the get-go.
Damn it.
The plot of the movie is Joaquin Phoenix is super sad.
He is super sad. And there's jelly bean eating. He rescues this little girl who's clearly been through a lot and needs some therapy.
Well, both of them
We're
have
not
been
getting
through
her
it.
therapy though because she's providing. Okay, we'll get into it.
So let's do a quick hot take around the table. Who likes it? Who doesn't? I thought it was fantastic. I loved it, but I'm also very, very partial to Lynne Ramsey. I like her style, so it's going to be tough to get me not to like something she directs. So I know I'm coming in biased. John?
It's one of those movies that I enjoyed after thinking about it some more. So when I first watched it, like I wasn't necessarily enjoying it while I was watching it, but then as I kind of thought about it afterwards and talked about it and realized kind of what she was doing and some of those decisions, and based off our discussion earlier, I do appreciate it.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit more lukewarm than you on it.
Cool.
But I appreciate what it was doing.
I loved it. I hated this movie with every minute of it. I was angry. There's a note in my list of notes that says "fuck you, Brian."
Yeah,
for
she
making
told
me
me
watch
as
it.
she wrote that.
Yeah.
I don't apologize. I was so like, oh, I made a terrible decision. This movie's going to suck. I feel awful.
I can't understand. I'm looking forward to finding out why people like it, other than because there's good camera work. I don't have another reason.
I didn't even think the camera work was that good. So we'll get to that.
Wow. All
Kyle,
right.
what about you?
So I probably fall into the it's fine category.
Ooh, a rarity.
I thought the performances were great. I thought it was technically a really great movie. But I kind of like when it was over, I kind of just went back to my life. I didn't really do much for me.
You can see that on the cover of a DVD. When it was over, I went back to my life. 2 stars. And Makaela?
I would give it like 2.5 stars.
Okay.
Because I guess nothing's wrong with it, but like the plot is weird. I don't get enough background info. I want to know what's going on. I didn't know what's going on half this movie. It's just a lot of people who need therapy, but show you can still be a good son, through your murder.
You can be a good son when you need therapy.
Yeah, through your murder.
So I think the best place to start on this thing is going to be with what I consider the thing it does the best, and then we can move into whatever Emily thinks it does the worst, and then we'll move in. We'll circle around.
We'll kind of oscillate in between.
Yeah. We'll kind of jump between what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and I think every problem or praise we have will come to surface naturally. We'll see if this works. The thing that I think the movie does the best is that it shows emotion, and I think the whole point of the movie is to show emotion. So the story isn't necessarily like the guy who's going to save the girl. The story is all about his emotional arc from suicidal to still suicidal. But it's just...
it's a crazy big arc. Lots of changes.
But it is, because in the beginning of the movie, he is just literally going through the motions and keeping his mom well-ish. Like, basically just making sure she's not dead. Like, doing the most he can to make sure that she's comfortable.
He's maintaining his tethers to the world.
Yeah, and then by the end of the movie, he even fully admits at one point that he doesn't give a shit about his job. He's paid to go do the job, and then he'll go do the job. And by the end of the movie, he realizes that the only person in the world with value isn't necessarily just his mom, and agrees to go save the girl, even though he doesn't really care about her. But he has the arc of there is humanity, which he had lost when he gave the child the candy bar when he was at war, and then the other kid shot that kid and stole the candy bar, which just ruined him for essentially the rest of his life. And it took that moment of, I'm going to kill myself because nothing in the world has value, and oh shit, it does. And that was the arc. So he still doesn't think that he has value, but he's acknowledging that the world has value. And you get that throughout the entire thing of just emotion, because you never really get story. You have to piece together the story on your own. So it does involve a lot of like engagement from the audience, which is what Lynne Ramsey is known for. Like, she is so good at giving you something that it's not going to be on the surface. You have to do some work with the movie, and that's, if you're familiar with her and you sit down with it, you're expecting it. And if you're not, it's kind of a slap in the face. And this is probably her biggest movie besides We Need to Talk About Kevin. But that one had the same thing, where you had to kind of fill in a lot of gaps on your own. And that's what I thought the movie did so well, was just show emotion on screen without blatantly telling you what these emotions are.
And as far as like what's interesting about that is that feels accurate. Like, as I approach these things that deal with like characters trying to kill themselves or suicide, there's a level where it kind of becomes fake, or you can kind of tell like the artifice kind of ruins it. Mm-hmm. Or you can kind of like, oh, you're not being honest here. And because the whole thing is so rooted in his emotional state, the fact that he goes from suicidal to suicidal, there's a difference there that like I can immediately pick up on, because it's not exactly as suicidal, and the shift in the formula is a little bit different. Like, you'd still probably just stay underwater if you could, but something changed a little bit, and so you keep kind of maintaining little tethers and stuff like that. I don't know. So like,
is his worldview changed? It wasn't his personal view. He still thinks he's worthless.
Yeah,
but
because you never not think you're worthless.
Yeah,
with that type of mentality.
Emily, did you like any of that, or no? None of that worked for you?
I mean, there were some very interesting shots in this movie that obviously the people involved went to film school. That much is clear.
I don't think they did.
Well, they studied.
They just work in film.
Yeah, they definitely know how to move the camera to the point where there weren't any not creative shots in this movie. Mm-hmm. Every single shot was a trick shot. And I started to be like, oh my God, can I just get in over the shoulder? Like, and it doesn't, when every single shot is clever, then nothing is clever. Because
I have so much context now to those tweets you did.
Yeah, I was so frustrated watching this movie, because I was like, can we just, it's okay to have a scene where two people are just like in frame, like you can do a shot that's conventional. It's okay. The movie we're talking about next week did an excellent job of that, and I think that
I'm polar opposite.
Oh wow, boy,
I thought
the fun.
Next week's movie is shot like garbage.
Are we disagreeing? Okay,
this is interesting. This is interesting because I feel like it's a good time as any to bring the earlier discussion that Brian and I had.
Yeah.
That like the older Godard films did this did this exact same thing. I feel like she was cribbing on that. A lot of this genre film that's anti-genre.
Yeah. This
movie that's actively pushing against any of the things you'd expect from a hitman trying to save a girl from like traffickers.
Yeah.
Like, you never see the violence he acts on someone directly.
Right.
And in some cases you never actually see it. You miss it. The editing edits around it.
Because we needed 800,000 shots of Joaquin Phoenix looking sad.
Right.
Yes, you do.
That's not a movie.
It totally is a movie.
He's looking sad, or we're doing inserts for like 50% of this fucking movie.
Yeah, that's how the story was told.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Clearly.
Well, and I think that's what adds to the divisiveness, because that's how all of Godard's films are.
Yeah.
And they get worse at that, or better at that, or worse depending on who you are, over time.
Yeah.
There was one I watched that was just like, it was all subtitled, but he didn't include subtitles in the movie. So you're just like trying to figure out language as you do this. And it was like, oh, I've been trolled. But this seems more directed at like trying to get that emotional arc and just not caring about the stuff that is just so cliched in these movies to begin with. Like, here's the girl, here's the corrupt politicians. Who gives a shit about that? Because it's the same thing.
Well, let's talk about the emotional arc that you guys described so eloquently as he goes from sad to a different kind of sad. He is sad and angry the entire movie. He never does anything other than sit around and wallow in his sadness.
But if that was true, he would have let the girl die. If that was...
Well, see, okay, that brings me to my next point. The girl is a sex slave. Let's not forget that. She is a sex slave. And every time we see her on screen, she's beautiful and ethereal and magical. And she saves him.
I didn't get that
She
at
does
all
the fucking emotional labor for him. Like, he spends the entire movie, his mom dies, this girl's in trouble, even in his flashbacks, because we have no B story. It is all with him. So we never see anything but his perspective. And his perspective is, woe is fucking me because the people around me are suffering. And therefore, I feel really bad about myself. This girl is a sex slave, but the whole story is about how saving her is going to save him. It's not about, he doesn't want to save her, he wants to save himself. And that was really bothering me.
I didn't get that at all. I don't think he wanted to save himself.
Yeah.
If he hadn't shot himself in his imagination in the diner, I would agree with you. But by showing that, he didn't want to save himself. He wanted to save her. He knows that he is worthless. Like, that's by having him kill himself in the diner, they are blatantly saying he didn't grow, but he admitted that other people need to, and that he needs to save other people.
I don't think there's a distinction there. Like, when he's drowning himself and he sees her, he's like, oh yeah, right, I gotta live so I can save her. But it's not about her. It's still about himself. That moment is still about himself finding a reason to live and not about the need to save a girl. It's about like, oh right, that beautiful floaty girl who's all sex slave, which is not a beautiful, innocent, gorgeous thing that, I have real problems with that.
But I totally disagree with the him wanting to save himself, because he essentially is still wanting to kill himself. He doesn't care about saving himself. He cared about saving her. If they didn't have that shot where he shot himself in the head totally out of the blue, I would 100% agree with you that was what it was.
Also, a quick call out to the scene after he shoots the 2 FBI agents in the ground floor, and then he holds the guy's hand and dies with him. Like, there's that scene, like, I don't know, that scene that throws kind of a weird little wrench on the whole, like, I don't know, it adds more to that. I think it kind of muddies that just from being.
I think there's too many moving pieces to say that it's just about saving himself. There's too many other things. He's shown. Because they show it left and right, like constantly, that he doesn't care about saving himself.
But
he cared about saving.
I don't think we're making I think you're misunderstanding my point.
Okay.
I'm not talking about like he's like, oh, I have to live. I'm saying like everything in this movie is about him wallowing in his sadness, and it's not about anyone else but him. It's about his, like, because we don't have a B story, we never see this girl's perspective. We only see everything through his eyes, so everything is about his own needs. Even when he's saving the girl, it's about himself. It's all about himself. And I just didn't care for that, because once again, we have a girl who's essentially fridged. Not entirely, but, like, she doesn't get a lot of agency. We only see her being sort of, like, misty, and except when even when she's murdered people, she's just still like, oh, I'm artsy and interesting. And I just... And in the end, he only comes around because she shows up and goes, everything's fine. No, it's not. She's just escaped from sex slavery. It's not fucking fine. And he's
but
like,
of course it's not fine.
Everything's going to be great.
Because he's broken.
Yeah.
He is a broken man, and he should not be with her.
And I'll tell you something about that gunshot scene. I was so tired of watching him wallow the entire movie. So like, I'm sad. Yeah, we get it. And then in that scene in the diner, when he was sitting there and she walked away, I was like, he was wallowing again. And I was like, just fucking put a bullet in your brain. And then he pulled out his gun and he did, and I started laughing hysterically. That is a true story.
I'm so glad I didn't watch this with you. Kyle, Makaela, what do you guys think?
What do you guys...
So I do agree with you with the fact that I think it's all about him and his wallowing, and they do kind of frame the girl as this pretty ethereal thing, which is not a good depiction of sex work at all, or of how you would go through that process. But then I think, too, they did give the girl a little bit of agency, because at least she kind of saved herself.
Yeah, that is the one part of the movie I
she
liked.
saved herself, and then he came and was like, oh, and I felt like he wallowed more when she saved himself, when she saved herself, because he was like, oh, well, now I don't get to murder him and I don't get to fix it. She fixed it. And it's like this whole, his arc is kind of like suicidal, homicidal, suicidal. And he picks very melodramatic ways to kill himself, which is odd just because in general, like if you're going to really think about it, that's not how men kill themselves. They don't Virginia Woolf it in the lake with rocks in their pockets, like they're all very melodramatic ways that made it very artsy and cute, when it's like, actually, if he really wanted to do it, he is an assassin. He has tons of weapons.
But the argument could be made there that he's never actually going to kill himself.
Yeah, you could.
And that's I think that's the point, because he does all these super, like the teenager, like, I'm going to kill myself and make a show of it. Which means he doesn't really have the gumption to do it. He just wants to and is a coward and never will. I think the fact that he's a coward plays a lot into this movie. Like, he wants to be the hero. He wants to do this. When those get taken away from him, it's like, well, then what am I here for?
Exactly. He's kind of like a big man baby. And he does a lot of crying and a lot of whining. And you're like, okay, well, now what are you going to do? Like, what is the next step? And I feel like with the way the movie's shot, and I know that you're saying she kind of does that on purpose, where you don't get much background information and you just get those weird flashes of like, this is why he has issues. But I don't know, it just like left me being like, okay, you know what it almost reminded me of? Did you ever see the movie Hard Candy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it reminded me of a less, like if Hard Candy wasn't so good. Like if we took Hard Candy down 3 notches. Because Hard Candy, at least I felt like, mind you, I watched it when I was young, so maybe it was just like I really liked it back then. But I felt like you still had to do some work, you still had to do some thinking, it was artsy, but you kind of got the overarching like story plot, versus his, you're like, okay, I think I get it. There's the candy bar scene, and there's these girls that are dead in a storage unit, and there's some things happening, but it's like you're still trying to kind of put it together.
It's interesting because like when I watched Hard Candy, I thought they told me too much. Really? I'm like, I wanted to make some of these leaps on my own, and I feel like you're leading me by the collar a little too much. And it's like, I feel like I could have done this on my own.
And I think that's kind of what ends up winning me over on this movie a little bit, is just it's kind of asking me to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think what that's leading is it's giving me some wildly different interpretations than other people, and trying to kind of navigate that too. Because there's some things that are just so anti what you would want out of this, but the way she's directing this, it's almost on purpose.
Well, I mean,
so then you got to explore like why did she choose to make the like sex slave ethereal, but then like have him try to kill himself in the pool, in the water with like rocks and like all these things, and like why did she superimpose her over the mother? Like it's starting to invite these like explorations that I wouldn't expect. Like you don't kind of go to that genre of movie for this, so that's why
mental illness is beautiful.
Well, but this movie does not show that mental illness is beautiful at all. I mean, I think the bigger thing is that we're seeing her ethereal, and if Emily is right, and if Makaela was saying the same thing, if we're seeing everything 100% through his point of view, then he's an untrustworthy narrator, which you could already guess because he has severe PTSD, which is very obvious. So maybe this girl isn't very ethereal. Maybe she is brutalized and horrible.
Well, that's the only viewpoint we get, because again, there's no B story.
But I'm fine with that. I don't need a B story in a movie. Like if it's going to be trim hour 28 movie, I don't need a B story.
But if you want us to say that there's some other thing going on here, we're not shown that.
But you have to make the leap on your own. I mean, that's what these movies, especially with Lynne Ramsey, that's what she does. You have to fill in the blanks on your own. If you
then I filled in the blanks differently from how you did.
And that's fine. I mean, that's why I like these sorts of movies. That's why they invite such a good conversation, because it is 100% on how you saw it and how it engaged with you, and it engaged with you in a way completely different than it did with me, and that's fine. I mean, I love that. Like
that's where like the details are fascinating in this.
Yeah,
because it's like with something like this that it leaves you so much to kind of reinterpret. Those details are required. Like just how they take the shot of the gruesome killer hitman, the glorious, like when those characters take their shirts off, that's pretty glorious. And this is just ugly,
yeah,
and
he's got a weird belly. He's got ugly scars.
The
all
scars
over him.
aren't pretty. Like, and you start thinking about these killer genre movies where like everyone's scars are pretty, and you're like, what is this trying to do? And he's just getting reverting more back to that childhood state as the movie goes on. So I was like, is this like an emotional Benjamin Button thing going on? Like, it invited a lot more thought than I was expecting, and it's been taking me a while to appreciate it more as I think about it. And it's just those smaller details, those specifics that really kind of color the overall experience.
Kyle, what about you? You've been a little quiet.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't think this movie, like, when you just consider like the sadness angle, like it's just wallowing in sadness. Why do we even live? All that kind of stuff. That stuff just doesn't really hit me at all. So when I watched it, it was like, okay, I've just liked sort of the more technical stuff about it. Like I liked how they, peppered in the little like subtleties in the way that the story was told. I liked the performances from people specifically. Joaquin Phoenix, I've kind of always enjoyed when I've seen him in things. But then, when the movie ended, it was like, okay, so you're gonna go off with this girl somewhere, I guess, and it just didn't really hit me in any significant way.
What do you think, given what we were given in the movie, what do you guys think he did with the girl after this? Just based on what we have, context clues.
Gave her $20 and sent her out on her own.
That's I think he ditched her.
Like he would just give her probably whatever money he had and just kind of be like, see ya.
I think maybe she ditched him.
Or she ditched him, yeah.
Either
They're
way,
definitely not going to run off into the sunset together.
Yeah,
absolutely
no.
not.
No, absolutely not.
And I think this same script could have been done. We could have had a new version of The Professional. We could have had a new version of Taxi Driver. We could have had a new John Wick. Like, there's so many different ways you could have done it. And then I think in most of those versions, I mean, even you look like back at Taxi Driver, which there's a shit ton of comparisons to this movie. Yeah. He ends up saving Jodie Foster, and they become pen pals, and it's like it's all well and good in the end. And this one is not that movie at all. No. I think after that diner, if they're together 24 hours after that, I'd be kind of surprised. Whereas I feel like Travis, and I forget Jodie Foster's name in the movie, but I feel like they would have been in touch pretty much the rest of her life. Whereas I don't see it in this one, and I think it's mostly because of Joaquin Phoenix. He's kind of a shitbag. Like he's, and it's not necessarily his fault. He had a really rough go of things, but he didn't do any of the work on the back end of getting healthy, which necessarily isn't his responsibility. Somebody should be helping him with that, but
that's your responsibility. It's like you're not responsible for your trauma, but you're always responsible for your own healing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you do have to do the groundwork.
And he showed no interest in getting better.
Exactly.
He shows none. He's like, I'm gonna move along. I'll take care of my mom.
Eat my jelly beans.
Yeah, I'll eat my jelly beans and I'll take care of my mom. And then his mom dies and it's like, all right, well, I'll eat my jelly beans and I'll take care of this girl for a little while. And it's just like he's just moving along till he's out of things to take care of.
He needs the women around him to be his emotional support.
Exactly.
But I don't think it was necessarily. I think it just happened to be women in both scenarios. I think if he was saving a boy, it would have been the same.
No, I think when a director makes that choice, and it was a female director. She did it on purpose.
Yeah, there's a reason.
She knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
And the only women you saw throughout this movie were women he was saving and emotionally connecting himself to. So it's like I think that was a direct
you're right.
choice.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely. But speaking technically of the movie, like it's interesting. Like John and I were talking on the way down. I did not do this intentionally, I swear. Last week, or last two episodes, I kind of did. This week, I didn't. I made kind of weird companion movies when I picked.
Really did.
Yeah, and it was not my intention at all. I knew nothing about this movie. I just kind of threw it out there, and I knew nothing about Thoroughbreds from next week. I just knew it was Anton Yelchin's last movie, and I wanted to see it because I like Anton Yelchin. But it's weird because they both have a very distinct style, like both of them. And now it's very
down to the music choice and the music timbre.
Yeah, and it's.
And the camera work.
Yeah, they're very, and it's you have a very seasoned director with Lynne Ramsey, and then you have a brand new director with the other one, and it's interesting watching them kind of back to back with each other. But it's weird that, like, say for example, Emily liked the next one and I didn't like this one, or the other way around. And I loved the camera work in this movie. I thought it was good. I thought it was a little showy, but I also thought that was kind of because it's trying to be emotional. So when you're trying to be emotional, it made more sense to me that every shot needed to be a little bit, we're showing emotion.
I didn't dislike the camera work. It was very skillful camera work. There was too much of it.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. Yeah. It didn't work for you 100% of the time.
Yeah. I just wish every now and then they would just let us rest and not constantly have every shot be something dramatic. And
I think if they did that, you'd lose the through line of this is all his emotion. It's 100% his point of view at all times. If we took a step back and started making it like a legit film, we leave that behind.
And I don't want to give it the excuse of like it was on purpose, but I think not enough filmmakers wield our agitation against us a little bit in these movies, and I think that helps with this.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, like that was an enhancer, and in a weird way. Like you're like, I don't like this part. I don't like what I'm seeing. But why? Like I don't know. Like, I felt like that was a part of the whole package.
Maybe that's part of my issue is that this movie
because she did that with We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Yeah.
It's the only one I see where it's like it's a school shooting movie, but it's so against every choice that you would expect in that thing, and you're kind of in an uncomfortable place watching it. You're kind of agitated. You come up on choices you don't agree with. And I'm always fascinated by movies that do that so specifically and on purpose.
And she even did that back with like Ratcatcher. Like she does things specifically to kind of irk her audience a little bit.
And I think it worked. Yeah. I'm very irked. I think one of my issues is that we don't get a break from the creative camera work. We don't get a break from him being sad all the time. We don't get a break from anything. So the entire movie is it felt like it just dragged on to me because it was the same thing over and over again, and then something would change, but nothing would change. And so I kind of wanted the movie to go places, and I mean, with Gone Baby Gone, which is similar, you have a like guy with some issues who's searching for a girl. There are twists in that movie. There are things that change, and you change your perspective, and you go, oh my God, wow, this isn't what I thought it was. Man on Fire. We have, Denzel Washington. There's so many movies that have the same plot. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, but you're picking the big glitzy.
Right.
Yeah, that's not what this was trying to be at all.
I know,
Yeah.
and I don't like what this is trying to be.
And I think everything you just said is the point of the movie.
Yeah, and I don't like it.
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it is
for you.
interesting to watch because
Yeah.
when you watch a lot of movies in this genre, or any movies that have like extended action scenes or extended like style, there's like a fatigue that sets in where like those breaks that you get are kind of needed because of that. And so like it's like, what's the flip of that, where it's like you take out all the plot of all the B stuff, all the stuff that like we just get a lot of in these movies that we've already seen those same beats. What's left? The emotion. Well, that emotion is hard to deal with, and it's agitating, and you hate it. It's going to give you things you don't like, and then just exploring that and taking out all that style, like all of that, like those things that kind of make it a little bit more palatable, a little bit more tasty, is a weird, interesting choice, I think.
Yeah, I guess I don't always think that because something is artistic and hard to watch that it's necessarily good.
Yeah, and I kind of wrestle with that too because I hate that art for art's sake kind of artifice. But like comparing it to like a Band of Outsiders, there's that comparison where it's like it's a crime film that's poor. Like it's a bad crime film, but it is a crime film. They spend the whole movie not doing the crime, and at the end they fail at the crime, and it's interesting. But like I don't know, it's like this weird, like it dances this line on like that artistic without going over to like snob. I'm losing the word snobbish.
Well,
like
it
feels like it's a balance.
You kind of put it earlier. It's kind of an anti-genre film, and I'm just taking a guess here. I don't think you're a big fan. Emily is a big fan of anti-genre films. Like I go back to Free Fire, which is totally anti-genre. Here's a heist movie. We're gonna do a heist.
But you guys kind of talked me into liking that movie more than I did when I first saw it.
I really like this movie. I think Free Fire is better. What have we missed in this thing? Like
I just want to make a comment about the Joaquin Phoenix in general because I would say that I also went into this movie with kind of a negative. I mean, I don't think I would have liked it anyway, but I have a very negative feeling about Joaquin Phoenix because I don't know if people know about this, but on I'm Still Here, the fake documentary he did with Casey Affleck was abusive to the women on that set.
Yeah.
And he sexually harassed several of them and borderline assaulted. And Joaquin Phoenix was present for a lot of those events and did and said nothing. And he even participated in a few of them. So, but everyone goes after Casey Affleck for that, and no one says anything about Joaquin Phoenix. So I wanted to make the point, anytime I see Joaquin Phoenix in something, I'm automatically, especially if I watch him being a douchebag, I am automatically like, ugh. So I already had that kind of going in.
Is there anything that we have blatantly missed in this movie? I know there was a discussion of a hammer that somebody wanted to bring up.
Let me bring up this hammer. So when we first started watching this movie and I saw him grab that ballpoint hammer, I was like, that's for murder. Because I just, as a person who listens to a lot of murder mysteries and has a lot of questions, what is a ballpoint hammer used for besides murder? I've never heard of it used for construction. I've watched a lot of like how-to videos. I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, get your ballpoint hammer and just fucking drill a hole into your wall."
You want the hammer that's got the thing that can pull out the nails for where you inevitably screw up, like me.
It is a ballpoint. Like it is for cracking skulls, and it's like the most like they should have a registry. It should be like buying a gun, buying a ballpoint hammer because it's everyone's murder of choice when they're killing their wives. It's all of these horrible like burglars' murders of choice, and Joaquin Phoenix's.
Also, if you look at the purchase history, I'm assuming it. Like I can only guess it's bought in tandem with duct tape.
Yes!
Always in tandem with duct tape,
like,
right?
Or rope. It's always like or gasoline. Like those items are never put together for constructive purposes.
And all I'm saying is like when you go to like the pharmacy to get Sudafed, you have to sign your name for things. And like if you buy things in the order of duct tape, ballpoint hammer, rope, and possibly gasoline, I feel like you should write your name and address down somewhere on a computer.
I do want to point out, just because I don't want us to get angry letters, it's ball-peen hammer.
Ball-peen.
Oh, ball-peen, yes.
I just don't want people to be like, how dare you don't even know what it's called? Like defenders of the ball-peen hammer
and
out
you
there.
know they'll come out
All
and
those
they'll
murderers.
be like, I have used it to build a birdhouse once, and you're like, how? How did you use it? How can you send me a video? Like, I'm so confused.
Are you operating at like 20 dexterity? Because I
I
tried.
tried so hard.
Is it for like putting a round dent in a wall?
Yeah, that's
Is
what I'm
that-
saying. But why?
Next to your nail?
Like, why do you need to put a ball-sized hole in the wall?
This is.
I really wish Chewie was on this episode because I
grips?
guarantee you she knows
She
exactly what it's
probably
for.
does.
Does,
Chewie,
yeah.
please write in and explain to
Yeah.
us what this hammer
Next
does.
week you'll have an
Besides
answer.
murder, she's gonna send us a letter that says you can kill the following people.
Oh, guys, this is a good question for Samwise.
Yeah,
Yes.
What the fuck is this hammer for?
Oh my God.
that's
yes.
the best crossover.
We do. We'll write this down. I also have.
Saruman had a ball peen hammer.
Oh, did he? Oh no. I also have an issue with his jelly bean eating. I just feel like who really likes jelly beans like that?
Who honestly likes jelly
The
beans?
murderers.
doctor,
Murders.
I guess.
Ronald Reagan, which I think proves to you that jelly beans, when you consume them and you enjoy them, you're probably a murderer or at least an accomplice to murder.
I was about to say I like them. I'm really glad I didn't.
But is it your favorite candy?
Oh, absolutely not.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because you're not a murderer.
Well, we don't know.
Do you have a ball peen hammer?
I don't have any tools.
Exactly.
But
then we know you're
Chewie
safe.
does. So you
Chewie
have
has a
tools
lot
in
of
your
tools.
home.
I don't know how to use them.
Okay.
When it comes to hammering things, hammering a simple nail into a wall.
We've been calling it wrong the whole episode.
Yeah,
Yes.
I talked to Chewie.
Exactly.
Yeah. She knows what she's doing.
Yes.
I think it's time for quotes? Question mark. If you have one, I would be
weren't a whole lot of lines in
impressed.
this movie.
I honestly don't have one, and I'm going to say that's okay because I was keeping an ear out the whole fucking time, going, "There's got to be something quote wise in
Yeah,
this."
this wasn't
This is-
exactly
guys, I just wanna
quotable.
Yeah,
I believe he says at one point, I found a green one and smushes it in
Okay.
reference to his jelly
Can
bean.
I just
There you
can
go.
I reference some of my notes here? What is happening? Inserts the movie. What is the fucking plot of this movie? Okay, I'm gonna skip that because that's really long. Fuck you, Brian.
Those are quotes.
That's most importantly.
I was confused for a minute whether or not his name was Joe or Gerald.
yeah, that was real.
Gerald.
How is he finding people? Like, isn't he a detective? He just like seems to just show up and know where everybody is.
that's the anti-genre part of this
I
movie,
guess.
where you just skip over the part that we would see in every other genre
Yeah,
film.
I guess
He's got
it's
the internet,
grief
then.
porn. For fuck's sake, those are the things I said. Okay, but I did have a quote. I liked when he was waiting for his drugs, and the guy came out, and he was mad, and he just goes, "Don't ever make me wait,"
And punches him as
He did
and then
punch
him in the face.
Oh yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a quote?
not a quote, but the aforementioned holding the FBI's hand as he died. I thought that was such a weird moment, but like he was holding his hand, and it stood out.
It definitely did stand out.
Yeah.
All right, review system for this one I think is going to be a little rough. But I'm going with any movie that you personally would consider a character study.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hate like all of those.
I know. We disagree on a lot of things, Emily. Listen to our past episodes. You hear Emily and I agree. There might be one in there.
Terminator 2.
Terminator 2.
100%
Yeah,
in sync
yeah,
on
absolutely.
that one.
If it wasn't for that one, who knows how long we'd be friends. I'm going to go with the obvious one, and I apologize if it's anybody else. I'm going with Taxi Driver because it's very obviously comparable, almost to a fault, but I think it works.
I'll go with we need to talk about Kevin to kind of cheat it a little bit, only because it is so much exact. Like it just they swapped the genre to school shooting, and you've got Tilda Swinton doing that same thing.
It is a good movie. Fucking grinding to watch, though.
Oh, it's a horrible watch, but I loved it.
See, I don't want to make myself more depressed. That doesn't sound fun to me.
Anybody else have
It's my
one?
jam.
Yeah, the only thing I can compare it to is like Hard Candy a little bit,
Okay.
but still very different, you
Yeah.
know. But if you talk about like artsy, only one point of view, only
Sure.
kind of knowing, you know, making specific camera choices, I will
Yeah.
give it that.
And I'll watch anything with Patrick Wilson in it.
Mm-hmm.
Love me some Patrick Wilson.
I don't even know what to compare this movie. Like honestly, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Like this movie, I watched it and I basically, like I think we watched an episode of Bob's Burgers or something immediately after.
Because I needed to be happy.
And it was just like I was just watching Bob's Burgers after that. Like
So you're comparing it to Bob's Burgers?
It's depressing how funny that is.
Joaquin Phoenix and Bob.
I love it.
this movie was almost exactly like Bob's. So, you're a Bob's Burgers fan.
I would like to see
You're
a Bob's
definitely-
Burgers episode done.
Oh
in
my
the style
god, remake of this?
movie.
Yes.
God, who would
with the
Louise
bumpy
be?
hair.
Oh boy. Did you have one, Emily? Did you go?
I'm gonna go with There Will Be Blood.
Okay.
Okay.
I like There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
I actually didn't like There Will Be Blood, but I liked it more than I liked this movie.
I was about to go, oh, there's one we agree on. Oh, no, she didn't like
I
it.
didn't enjoy it, but I like some moments in it, and I like the big drink it up, thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But also, he was a very unlikable person, as was Joaquin Phoenix in this movie, and very angry, and it's very artsy. It's very artsy.
Can I bring up something There Will Be Blood and this movie have in common? Is
Sure.
the milkshakes. But in There Will Be Blood, the milkshakes look delicious. In this movie, the milkshakes, I don't understand how you can pay so much attention to detail and make the world's most disgusting looking milkshakes. in your final
Anti-genre
scenes.
down to the food choice.
Like, I cannot get over it. They look so bad, guys. The chocolate doesn't look like chocolate. It looks like poo-poo. It's like the vanilla looks like a weird Nesquik disaster. But There Will Be Blood, that milkshake looked tasty.
I
I
wonder-
drank that milkshake.
Well, here's
wonder-
the thing. I can defend this. The movie's about sadness. What's sadder than a bad milkshake?
Right? So
Well, I was about to
sad.
say, I wonder if the art department made the milkshakes, and then they spent way too long setting it. They had
That
to
wouldn't
stop and
surprise
set
me,
up the
yeah.
shot, and then the art
Yeah.
department was like, "Can we please reset the milkshakes?" And Lynn Shelton was like, "Fuck it, it's just fine, let's go." And the
And
art
it's-
department was like, "No, but please." And
Yeah.
someone somewhere is going to notice
That's-
how
And I'm
disgusting.
that someone.
That's most likely what happened, but I'm going to assume it was a choice.
Okay,
The worst choice she could have made.
yeah,
The whole movie.
the movie
That
was actually
ruined the movie.
I
for
liked the
me.
movie until that.
Until the
You
disgusting
liar.
milkshakes.
Fuck you, Brian was waiting way before the milkshakes.
It was about 5 minutes in.
It does add to the sadness that they're sitting together after all this and they get the worst milkshake.
Wait, and can we talk about how they got 3 milkshakes? There are
They
2.
did?
Yes, they got vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. So it was like they both had their own and were splitting one, but they were all kind of full and disgusting and level.
I would not want to split a milkshake with Joaquin.
the other one's
Neither
for,
would I.
The other one's for his dead mother.
He had to pour one out.
Yeah.
She liked chocolate, I guess.
Interesting point to the whole milkshake thing. The blood looked more like a milkshake than the milkshake did.
Yeah.
When that thing was like cascading down, I was like, that looks like a red milkshake.
All right, let's do a round of plugs and say goodbye. So for me, as always, listen to Venture Bros, the Venture Brothers podcast, where we are now on season 3. And I am so excited to talk about it because there are so many ups and downs throughout season 3. But we just had one of my favorite episodes of all time come out, or it's coming out next week. I'm really bad at calendars in my head. So either way, Buddy System is coming out soon, which is my all-time favorite episode of Venture Brothers, and I'm so excited to talk about it.
We should pimp Sam's podcast, Samwise.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Yes.
It's really good.
It is a great show. She is crushing it week to week. I get to listen to him a little bit before everybody else. Ha! And yeah, every week it pops up in my inbox from my QC. I'm like, this is good shit. She's knocking it out of the park. And another big shout out to Bradley Parsons, who's done music for both this show, Venture Brothers, and her show. That guy did a great job.
Good.
I actually listened to the episodes that I missed, and I was like, oh, music.
Yeah.
It's like music, and it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I was surprised.
Bradley did a really good job. So thanks again to Bradley Parsons for his musical choice.
So good. Can't praise it enough. We also have articles on our site, athpod.com. And we have a few good ones up this past week. And I'm really excited.
Another shout out to Matt Dykes, who's been writing up a storm for us. I just learned this week he's from England.
I learned that too as I was looking up this convention. I was like, where is this?
Yeah, we were just chatting, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well, since I'm across the pond, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that."
Wow, yeah. But so they had recently a V, the miniseries, 30-year retrospective of the thing, and
Yeah, if you've ever been interested in that show, that article is fantastic.
it is
They
a
did
good
job
article.
breaking it down.
And then there's a lot of conversation going on there too, still. So
Yeah. Anything to plug?
You can follow me on Instagram at Champagne Calcite. That's champagne like the drink, calcite like the stone. Also Twitter at Black and Petty, but N, not A-N-D, like the letter N, Black and Petty. I also like to live tweet my feelings to shows as I binge watch them.
That's my favorite thing. I'm going to follow you right now.
Yes, and I will do it all in one thread, and it will be whatever miscellaneous terrible show.
also you're a very
I'm watching.
considerate Twitter user. That's
Yeah.
Do you accept requests for shows to watch?
Of course I do.
Awesome.
So my plug is for all the video game players out there, I'm working on a game called The Adventures of Chris that will be coming out sometime next year.
Where?
You can find it at theadventuresofchris.com. Actually, not drop the just adventuresofchris.com. We're also on Steam. If you want to add the game to your wish list on Steam, it'll be available on PC and Mac.
Oh, so you have like a preview page on Steam, kind of like a
Okay,
exactly, cool.
Exactly. So you can see what the game looks like. You can see what it's about. It's been a ton of fun working on it. It's a ton of fun to play.
What like one sentence? What is it like genre, gameplay wise?
It's like an action adventure platformer.
Okay.
It's if you grew up playing Mega Man X, you will be into this game.
I didn't grow up playing Mega Man X. I played it for a month and shattered my controller.
I played I through X.
Yeah. So if you like being frustrated while playing video games,
I'm not sure if you want this coming down. Like now, I know who to blame when I get mad at a game. That's not good for you.
No, it's a ton of fun. It is challenging. As you know, Cuphead is. This is also a 2D animated game.
Awesome.
Cuphead.
Nice.
So if you're into that type of thing, we're kind of in that
up to a point. Yeah. So
we're in the same place.
Oh, you're gonna get so many angry emails from me.
Yeah.
I know who to be mad at.
But you'll be so satisfied when you finally beat the level.
You say that like I'll beat the level. All right. Thank you guys very much for joining us this week. I hope people out there either enjoyed or hated this movie as much as we did. It was fun to talk about.
Don't at me, bro.
Bye.
Bye.
bye.